I went by the park in front of the courthouse to talk to some people, just see who's out there, like that kind of thing. And yeah, I was talking to this young man, this Trump supporter guy, and we were having a nice conversation. And then we turned around and we saw this guy take out a backpack, maybe about 20 feet away from us, take out these two cans, small rectangular cans, like turpentine can size. And he proceeded to oh, before he doused himself, he threw a bunch of flyers into the air. He went into the backpack and flew them all like with a flourish, like way up. And then he took one can and doused the left-hand side of himself. Then he took the other can and doused the right-hand side. And then he pulled out a lighter and just lit himself on fire. I was skeptical at first. I thought it was a gag, like I didn't think he was gonna actually light himself on fire. But when it seemed like he had real purpose, everybody started to run away from him. And then that's when he went up. It was a very, very strong fire, so there wasn't there was no way anybody could go near that. And then first he was standing, then he sort of like sat a little bit, and then he sort of fell backwards and he was lying down and his legs were like, he must have been in a great deal of pain. And then by that point, the police and a person with a fire blanket was coming around, and they were coming in at that point. Everything was barricaded. There was no way to easily get in. There was only the one small, like pinch, I guess they call it pinch point in crowd control. There was this one small pinch point for coming into that space and leaving that space. And that was not a good thing in this scenario. I don't know what the second factor was. I mean, it seemed to take forever. It probably took probably took 2 or 3 minutes, but it seemed like a long time. Initially, when we were all yelling towards them they were not, they didn't react at all. They just stayed where they were and just sort of like looked at us like we were crazy protesters or whatever, you know, like we were creating some kind of ruckus. And so I mean, I've been in a lot of protests and stuff. Like I have a lot of skepticism about that kind of thing because it's like their interaction only became like proactive once they realized this guy was actually like burning to death, even though we were like screaming at them for what seemed like a while, probably only a couple minutes, but what seemed like a while before it happened. So that's the park. And the only way you can get in and out of it is over here because Trump is in there. Because normally you can get in all sides, including spots in the middle. It's an open park, but not today. These are benches. This is the man that lit himself on fire. And this is where I started. And by the time he actually pulled the match, I was like almost out of the park. By the time he lit the match, then I lingered for a little bit before I left. And then that's when the police finally came in. It's the police, Secret Service. They were all over behind barricades in cars. It's not like we were out in the country somewhere. There were like many, many, many police in the immediate vicinity at the time that this happened. And not to put too fine a point on it, but this man went through this pinch point with a backpack full of flammable liquids, and there was never any, he had no problem getting in there. But no, he said nothing. He was very quiet, moved very deliberately. He knew what he was going to do, and he did it. He didn't say anything. More worried about my own safety and his safety to bother to pick one up. I wouldn't say I was afraid for my life, but I was like afraid enough to try to leave the area as this was going on.
Large, like the ones you get like kid poster board signs. One about some Ponzi Street scheme. There was something about Substack.com. Another one suggesting that Biden and Trump were coups, and there was going to be a coup. And he was just sitting quietly. He had a stack of flyers. I was going to get a flyer, but I didn't. And then at some point he got up. Right before he got up, I turned around and I took a picture of him. He stopped. I actually thought it was water at first. And then I think before he doused the second one, he threw the flyers all over like 4 times. He flipped them. And then.
You mean when he doused himself twice?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in shock. I'm a little in shock, but I don't know, just kind of, I guess, trying to process the situation.